I'm Bradley Graham, a longtime journalist and soon to be one of the owners of Politics Prose Bookstore with my wife.
And I'm Lissa Muscatine, who will be joining Brad as a co-owner of Politics Prose.
There were a number of things that attracted us to Politics Prose. The announcement of the sale came at a time when we were both in transition to new careers. I was starting work on another book. Lissa was about to leave government. And we were encouraged by friends to look at Politics Prose, friends who thought it would be a good fit for us. We have, like many in the Washington community, been loyal fans of the store. We appreciate the store's importance in the Washington community. It's more than a bookstore. It's a community center, a cultural institution. We were concerned about the future of the store, and as we looked more and more into the prospect of buying the store, we got more and more excited about managing it ourselves.
It's important also to mention that we didn't leap into this when the announcement of the sale of the store was made in June of 2010. In fact, we were doing other things, so we were chagrined about the fact that the store might be sold, but we didn't really think about it for ourselves. And it took several months of prodding by friends and sort of really starting to think about it at a deeper level before we even kind of thought about entering this long process that evolved. So it wasn't, this light bulb went off instantly and we were suddenly throwing our hat in the ring.
I approached the prospect of buying Politics Prose much as a journalist would writing a story about the state of the independent bookselling industry. Identified a number of bookstore sellers around the country who I wanted to talk to and set out to interview them and find out how they have managed to survive, what their views were about the future of the industry, what they were doing, and I came away with a whole set of impressions, and but most of all, very encouraged about the future of the independent bookselling business. It was clear that everybody was still concerned about the future. Nobody was having a particularly easy time of it. But so many of the booksellers I met, including those who had been in the business for a number of years, were still having a lot of fun in the business, for one thing, and also felt that they were providing a very important service still to their communities. And if there was one common thread among them all, it was that their stores existed as very strong centers of community service and community involvement. And that is also true in spades of Politics Prose. It's from the beginning been a store that has had a very strong element of community service, and that's what appealed particularly to Lissa and me.
I think the other thing about Politics Prose is it's in a unique location in terms of its Washington clients and customer base, and it is a kind of locus of politics and ideas and an intellectually sort of fermenting kind of a community. And for me, as I really thought about it a lot, I felt that in the kind of life that we lead nowadays, where there's such a bombardment of the senses with the speed of everything and the information overload, and people are barraged by lots of stuff they don't even want to know, and they don't have that space to stop and reflect and discuss and interact and engage and think in the ways that they might like, that Politics Prose might actually become an even more desired space for people to have that kind of reflection and forum, really, for ideas.
When we were looking at buying Politics Prose, it was something that I was pursuing. Lissa had a few other ideas about what she was going to do, but one of the most important strategic decisions that we made came the night before I was supposed to go in and interview with the current owners, Barbara Meade and David Cohen, who is the husband of the late Carla Cohen. And I asked Lissa if she would mind coming with me to the interview. And it was the smartest decision that I made, because she was quite willing. Of course, she'd been involved in my thinking through this whole project, but she hit it off with Barbara and David, and both of them also made clear that they very much were interested in having a female presence as well as in some mix with whoever would take over the store.
I think the idea of having a female presence also resonated with me, not just because I'm a woman and not just because I'm a mother, but I've also worked for women before, and I've been in those kinds of environments. I was a speechwriter for Hillary Clinton for many, many years, and I worked on her books with her and worked for her in the State Department. And so the way that those kinds of workplaces are, the kind of environment that can provide, I kind of understood what it was about Politics Prose to have strong female leadership. And obviously there are many kinds of leadership that are effective, but I think I had that experience myself, so I certainly understood why that mattered to them.
Clearly the biggest threat to independent bookstores are e-books and online sales, and Lissa and I have given quite a bit of thought to that, as have many other booksellers, and nobody seems to have the answer. There's a lot of uncertainty about just how much of the market e-books are going to capture going forward. No question that it's very important for a store like Politics Prose to have a very strong and appealing web presence, and we're going to be doing more to enhance Politics Prose's website and to make it easier for customers to go to the P&P website and to order their ebooks or to purchase their books online if that's what they'd like to do. But we're also optimistic that physical books are going to be around for a long time to come.
Carla Cohen, when she founded Politics Prose, envisioned it as more than a bookstore, as a community center, as a forum for people to exchange ideas and have discussions and sort of to enhance civil discourse in our community. Excuse me. And so if you take that thesis and apply it to almost any era, we are determined to preserve that element and kind of essence of the store. And that will transcend the physical book or the ebook. I mean, it's about the authors and the events and the interaction with an author. It's about having a book club. It's about having booksellers who are the most knowledgeable there are. I mean, they can spend a half an hour with a customer and really direct them to the books, and they will have read the books, and they will know their customers. And those kinds of things are important regardless of whether there's a physical book or an ebook. And so you're right that the event spaces and the kinds of events and the way that those events draw people in and the quality of the booksellers, all of those things are what make the store great. And so we plan to, build on that great foundation and try to amplify and enhance those elements of the store as much as we can.
I think it's true that book tours are shrinking as publishers begin to cut back on expenses. But it's our feeling that Washington will continue to be a very, very important stop, even on these abbreviated tours, that authors will still find it, and their publishers will still find it important to go both to Washington and to New York to promote their books. And of course, when they come to Washington, they're going to want to come and talk at Politics Prose.
Well, in terms of the size of the store, I mean, you obviously have to match it with what you're trying to do, whether it's events, whether it's selling books, whether it's having classes, and so on. And so Politics Prose has used its space very economically. I mean, we're crowded. We have to cram a lot of things into our space. But I think, again, getting back to what really makes the independent bookstores and Politics Prose different from the big chains and the 25,000 square foot stores and the sort of more homogenous kinds of bookstores is that you get a different quality of bookseller almost for sure. People who really are invested in books, they're there because they're passionate, they know the merchandise, they know the customers, and they can spend the time. You get the book club involvement, you get just a much more personalized kinds of service and a more targeted inventory to your customer base. Politics and Prose does have the advantage of being a store where people really do gravitate to, and so people will come in maybe looking for a book, but as they browse the aisles or they encounter a bookseller, they may discover 3 or 4 other books they want. They may have heard an author that they hadn't known much about, and they decide to buy that book. That's just not possible online. And even if some online bookstores try to steer customers to books they think they might like, the assessment of that is that it's pretty weak. They don't really know the tastes of those customers because they don't really know those customers. They're basing it on there's some sort of algorithm, and the algorithm doesn't really know the person, and the bookseller at Politics and Prose or another independent bookstore is going to know the customer, or at least be able to interact and listen to them enough to get a gauge of what that customer might be interested in. And so again, that experience of being in the physical store with the actual bookseller, or even just physically there to browse the aisles and be pointed to a display or to be looking in a certain section of books that are of interest to you, is going to be, I think, a much more satisfying shopping experience for most readers than searching online and trying to hope you come up with something you might enjoy.